conscience is captive only to the word of God. I cannot and will not recant anything, for to go against my conscience is neither right nor safe.
Legend tells us that Luther closed his address with one of history's greatest declarations of exhausted defiance.
Here I stand. I can do no other. God help me. Amen.
Luther's statement really marks the dawn of a new era. The era of the ordinary person standing up against authority and saying, I'm sorry, this is what I believe. My conscience tells me this. I cannot do anything else. That, I think, is a defining moment in the emergence of our modern understanding of personal and institutional freedom.
This moment in Worms is very powerful. It's a time when a man stood up and spoke the truth and spoke for the truth and spoke for liberty of conscience. And we see him, therefore, as a monument to liberty of conscience.
It's one of these grand gestures where individuals stand for something much larger than themselves.
Luther had been allowed to return to his lodgings after the funeral. He was told he would receive the verdict on the following day. He was sure that he would be handed over to the agents of Rome to face inquisition and trial for heresy. But then he received an extraordinary message. The judges had been unable to come to the unanimous verdict that the rules of the diet required. One of those abstaining was Luther's old protector, Frederick the Wise.
He has perceived the usefulness of Martin Luther. He doesn't want him to die. He wants to go on using him as a kind of weapon against the papacy and the church. And I think he's also very attracted to Luther's teachings, and he genuinely wants Luther to continue his work.
Luther was granted safe passage back to Wittenberg from Worms. But the threat of arrest by the powers of the church still hung over him. Frederick now took drastic action. He had Luther snatched on his way back from Worms and hidden away in a remote and isolated castle called the Wartburg, where the agents of the Pope would never find him.
Luther goes from the incredible drama and intense experience of the Diet of Worms to a solitary existence hidden away in the Wartburg. He goes from great elation and energy to depression.
Luther now found himself sinking into the despair and anguish that had plagued him throughout his early years. A depression that was accompanied by a vivid sense that the devil was haunting him.
may be that in his leisure in the Wartburg, he had more opportunities to confront the devil personally. And when you visit the Wartburg, you are shown the desk where Luther threw ink at the devil. His conviction is that the devil is to be encountered every day.
There is now a period of undoubted regression, introspection, melancholy, accompanied by physical symptoms of which Luther was distressed and afraid. The term constipation, and knows what. And I think the way that he gets out of it is to use the prose that he worked in the past to write.
Luther threw himself into one of his greatest enterprises yet, a translation of the Bible into German, making the Word of God accessible to the common man.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? Is Abe Lincoln honest?
This is just pick my next couple of days.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Every day, millions of kids go to school without basic supplies. No pencils, no crayons, no hope for the future. You can make an impact.
No pencils, no crayons,
Donate
no
to the
hope.
Kids in Need Foundation. Visit our website to find out how. The sky's the limit when kids dream big. Support the Kids in Need Foundation.
But even as Luther languished in isolation, the story of his stand at Worms was spreading like wildfire. He was now a hero, the figurehead of a revolution.
Gradually, what started with one man is picked up and repeated, multiplied over and over as more and more individuals become involved. And for them, the Diet of Worms is of symbolic importance and in many ways galvanizes them to act. Suddenly the world shifts. It's like you've taken the pieces and rearranged them and you can't see the world the way it was before.
It was in Wittenberg that the first sparks of revolution were lit. Monks and nuns began to leave their monasteries and convents. Priests abandoned church law to get married and live the lives of the congregation.
This is a beginning not merely of a religious movement, it's a social, economic, political revolution. There are images of saints in the churches. The very same people who paid for those images are the ones that tear them down and off the walls.
It was an unstoppable rebellion, spreading from the grassroots up. The first steps of what would become the Reformation. Luther was finally able to return to Wittenberg in the spring of 1522. By now, the Pope had far greater problems than just one rebellious monk. And Luther was about to discover how much of a revolution his words had inspired.
Because the church was so wrapped up in the